Fullmetal Panic Invisible Victory comes to an end with two final episodes, which are filled to the brim with lots of action. But it's made very clear by the end of this episode that this is still just the beginning of the Fullmetal Panic story. After weeks of waiting and rumors of production issues, the final two episodes of Fullmetal Panic Invisible Victory are finally here. And you know what? They were pretty freaking solid. I really do believe that they stand alone as some of the best action that I've actually seen from the series, and it's hard to deny that Sousuke's brand new mech, the Laevatein, is just all sorts of cool actually getting to see it in action. Really, that's the main point about episode 12, is getting to see that brand new mech. The way that it's teased in episode 11 and finally seeing it come to battle in the 12th episode is really a thing of beauty. But this entire season right here, I have to admit, I'm a little conflicted on only by the way that it actually ended. While I really enjoyed Invisible Victory and it felt like a natural continuation of Fullmetal Panic, having to wait for it for so long really was like the worst thing about it. And I don't know how well this season did. I don't know how many people watched it. I don't know what the ratings were. I don't know what type of merchandise they're selling to try and promote the show. And even the ending of this episode right here implies that we may or may not see the return of the anime series. And that's really disappointing, as the entire season of Fullmetal Panic Invisible Victory was kind of a setup for the next season, which may or may not happen, which is kind of disappointing, I have to admit. That being said, the overall experience of just watching this again and seeing these characters like over a decade ago, like, I didn't expect that Fullmetal Panic was ever going to return, and it really didn't skip a beat. That's what I loved about it. It felt so classic, like I was just seeing my old friends yet again. And I have to admit, the way that episode 12 ended with them using the original theme song from the very first season, it really made me misty-eyed, and it made me realize, wow, I love this franchise, and I really do hope that it's going to return. The good thing is, episodes 11 and 12 are really freaking good. It doesn't have the best animation in the world. There are some really great scenes, though, here. Like, all the mech battles are really solid, but I still felt that the first half of the season just looked a lot cleaner. Like I said, I think this entire show was plagued by production issues, but I just don't really know any of the details behind that. I do know that a lot of episodes were delayed, there were a couple of recap episodes, and whenever they have those, it's not really a good thing. The good thing is, though, the way the season ends just feels really good. So, episode 11, right here, is basically all just a setup for Sousuke reuniting with Mithril and getting ready to go into battle against Leonard and his massive force in Mexico. It's friggin' awesome. He even has a brand new mech which is provided to him, and it is all sorts of awesome. It's basically just a giant, bulky, football player-looking robot that is filled to the brim with all sorts of awesome and giant shotguns. It's just cool. It's manly. I love it. And yet, it's all just an appetizer until Sousuke actually ends up getting his brand new mech, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the episode actually goes with him going to this island and trying to help out these other American soldiers, which are actually just Mithril, which are there performing their very own operation. In fact, he actually reunites with Mao and Weber in a really great way, and it's great to see these characters all work together because they always just play off each other in such the best way possible. Even Ben gets involved, and I have to admit, even with the Laevatein in this episode, which looks so freaking crisp, I still love the look of Ben's arm slave. I still think it might be one of my favorite from the entire series. But basically, this is just him teaming up with all of his friends again as they prepare to go in and try and save Kaname. When Sousuke actually gets to the base, he sees this car that's leaving, and he sees Kaname inside, and he tries to rip off the roof of the car, but it actually turns out to be a dummy and a bomb, and basically his entire mech gets destroyed, and he's surrounded by all of these troops. That's when Kalinan reveals himself, and it shows that he's working for Amalgam at this point. It is implied, however, that this is all part of, like, a secret plan. Like, this is all something that he's been planning from the beginning. I still don't fully believe that he is completely allied with Amalgam. While he has done terrible things and he has hurt people at this point, there is a moment where he says something but doesn't say it out loud. Sousuke is able to read his lips, and it's implied that he needs to be stopped. He wants to be stopped. So Sousuke tries to attack him and the other soldiers, ending the episode, bringing us to the next one where things get even more insane, with Leonard and Kaname finally getting ready to leave, and we have this incredibly tense scene where Leonard actually tries to prove her resolve by handing her a freaking revolver and saying that if she has the guts, she can shoot him and kill him right now, which she actually does not do. But when Leonard actually forcibly tries to take the gun back, she does end up shooting him, but it just barely grazes him. Now, while I think this is really great because it just shows that Kaname is finally starting to get a little more hardcore here, it's disappointing because we don't get to see any more of Leonard in this season, and I really wanted to have like a rematch with him and Sousuke, but it's very clear the way that this season ends that they're really just building up to that eventually. So Leonard needs to get to the hospital. Kaname's been taken in by Kalyan in a giant helicopter, and they're getting ready to escape. While all of this is going on, we also have Leonard's elite group of goons who have these super-powered mechs fighting against Mao, Ben, and Weber, and Sousuke needs a brand new mech. Luckily, that's when Wraith comes in and drops it out of a friggin' helicopter, and we are fully introduced to the Laevatein for the very first time. First, color scheme is awesome. It's the exact opposite of everything that we saw from the Arbalest. It immediately lets you know that this is the next level arm slave. Next, I love its weapons. Not only does it have blunt blades, but it also has this gun, which is one of the coolest things that I have ever seen. It's incredibly destructive, but it can actually be combined with this massive barrel, which allows it to fire upwards of 30 kilometers. Think about that for a second. That's freaking insane. But what's really great about the Laevatein is, despite the fact that it looks kind of like just a slightly upgraded Arbalest, it's incredibly fast and powerful to the point where, yes, it can take on other armed slaves, but it can even take out the behemoths by itself, by simply knocking them over or even hitting it with its super powerful rifled attacks. 2 shots, one of them goes down in. 2 shots. One of them at 30 kilometers away goes down in 1 shot, period. And these blasts are so powerful that you actually get to see this thing like skidding across the earth when it fires its weapon. What I'm saying is episode 12 is sort of just a showcase for Sousuke's brand new mech, and it does work. I love it. It's definitely my favorite thing about this entire finale. That and the final moment where it really does look like Sousuke's not going to save Kaname, and I was sort of convinced by that as the episode was getting ready to end, and it's clear that they're trying to set this up for another season, and at first it looks like Kaname is going to take the dark route. She's just going to shoot herself in the head, and that's going to be the end of it. But instead, she decides to gain more resolve and demands that she talks to Sousuke over the radio, which she does. And at first, she doesn't want Sousuke to come after her. She's just accepted that this is going to be her fate, and the more that Sousuke tries to do this, more people are going to get killed. When suddenly, she decides to declare her love for Sousuke, and so does Sousuke as well, which is a very good scene to see. It's just good to casually hear them say it, because they never say it at all. And that's when she makes this crazy speech about, look, Sousuke, you gotta save me. I don't care how many people you kill, thousands, millions, make it happen. The first time I saw this scene, I was just like, this is kind of fucked up. I can't believe she's saying this. But she does reassure that, by the way, I wasn't being serious about the killing millions of people thing. She's just like, she's going to continue to try and fight back. She wants Sousuke to continue to use his special abilities to try and help her. Basically, another season is coming, maybe. The episode ends with Sousuke reuniting with all of his friends from Mithril as they dive into the ocean in the Daydanon, as the original theme from the first series plays, ending the episode. So what's the rundown on the finale of Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory? Both of these episodes were really solid. They were basically just big action fests, and there's not that much to talk about outside of the really cool action, but there are some standout scenes. The big ones, I think, really being the Kaname shooting Leonard scene and the big finale where both Sousuke and Kaname declare their love for one another. All of that stuff just absolutely worked here. I really hope there's going to be another season. I would like to see a conclusion to this anime series. I don't want to read the light novels or the manga. I've been introduced to this through the anime, and I really want to see it through to the end. I really loved this season, too, especially for how it broke the mold, in particular in the middle portion of the season when we were introduced to Nami and all the other characters in Namsak. I thought that arc was one of my favorite from the entire series, if only for how I couldn't predict anything. The new characters were really great, and it was also very shocking in the things that it was actually wanting to do. Little by little, Full Metal Panic has gotten really intense as it actually goes on. But they still managed to have a little bit of lightheartedness, and a lot of that definitely comes from some of the characters. I love the ridiculous cursing commander and the American soldier who are completely obsessed with Tessa. It's funny and it's really creepy. It's also really funny that pretty much everyone falls in love with Tessa. I mean, honestly, can you blame them, though? I mean, she's absolutely gorgeous in every way. Getting to see Lemon see her for the very first time was funny, as he does not hide his love at all. He becomes a bumbling idiot when he actually sees her, which is really funny. Getting to see the return of Al, the AI, is really great. I still love the way that he bickers with Sousuke in the series. It's highly reminiscent of Tony Stark talking to Jarvis in the Iron Man movies. I just think it's really, really funny. This highly advanced AI, which is not afraid to snap back at its owner a little bit. So let's go ahead and just break down this season of Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory. From beginning to end, it had a breakneck pace, it immediately opened up with a lot of intense action, and it firmly established that this is the beginnings of the big final battles between Mithril and Amalgam. They managed to introduce some new characters who were really awesome, some of which I got really attached to, Nami in particular. Her death for me is still the most shocking part of the entire franchise, if only for how it was handled, how realistic it was, and how just out of nowhere it was. I wish we could have seen a little bit more of Kaname in this season, but it's understanding why we didn't. She was captured by Leonard. I wanted to see a little bit more of Leonard and his mecha action. I'm glad that at least we got to see his fight at the beginning of the show. Sousuke, of course, took charge in this season, and he didn't develop that much as a character, but now I like the fact that he's so willing to admit his love for Kaname at this point, and I loved the action in this season. I think the best that we've actually seen from the franchise, even with some of the CG looking a little spotty in points, there was just some really solid mecha action from this show. So, yeah, I loved this season of Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory. I just really hope we'll get more. The Laevatein, I can't wait to see more of that. That's definitely the highlight of episode 12. So I'm giving both of these a 5 out of 5. I thought they were a really solid conclusion to the end of this arc. Like I said, I can't say it enough. Please don't make us wait long for the next season. So that's my thoughts on Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory. These episodes, the entire season. If you guys want to see my reviews of the previous episodes, make sure to look for the playlist on the channel. But if you guys did watch this entire season and these final 2 episodes, I would love to hear your thoughts about them in the comment section below. If you liked them, if you didn't like them, what did you think of the Laevatein Arn Slave? What do you hope to see from the future of Full Metal Panic? Do you think there's a future for Full Metal Panic? Let's start a discussion, guys. I will see you guys next time, and as always, stay down, baby.